and welcome. I'm Jackie Stennett, a U.S. Army veteran and the Vice President of Academy Women. Thank you all for taking time to join us for today's event. Academy Women's Career Coaching Workshop, which is held as an annual event, will continue to extend its reach by bringing you a monthly webinar series. As with our annual career workshop, which will be held in 2025 on April 2nd as a hybrid event with options to attend in person or virtually, the monthly webinar series will provide insights from subject matter experts and thought leaders who share their knowledge on a broad array of topics designed to support the professional and personal development of military leaders. For those who are in or considering a career transition, be sure to stay tuned until the end of today's webinar, where you will have the opportunity to connect directly with a member of GE Aerospace's talent acquisition team. And throughout the month of August, you will also be able to connect directly with GE Aerospace team members in Academy Women's Virtual Engagement Center, powered by the generous support of Leidos. The Virtual Engagement Center is an always-on platform where members of the military community can gain access to important resources and connect through asynchronous text, audio, and video chats with top-tier military-friendly employers like Leidos and GE Aerospace. GE first stood with Academy Women in support of our mission in 2010, over 14 years ago. And now we are pleased to welcome GE Aerospace as our presenting partner for today's webinar. Thank you, GE Aerospace, for your continued commitment to military women and the military community. Academy Women couldn't do the work we do without you. A special thanks goes out to Nicole Foster, Mike Brown, Nora Burghardt, Amanda Dolsen, Jennifer Murphy, Jason Pratt, and Nyapaula Washington for making time to share their stories today and for working diligently behind the scenes at GE Aerospace to ensure military members are supported as they transition into meaningful careers subsequent to their service. You'll meet the GE Aerospace team shortly, but first, I'd like to introduce Susan Phelan, who will be your host today. Susan is a U.S. Air Force veteran, a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, and is the founder and president of Academy Women. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Please join me in welcoming Susan to the virtual stage. Enjoy the discussion, everyone. Susan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for that kind introduction. And as Jackie mentioned, it's such a pleasure to have this incredible team join us from GE Aerospace. Today's webinar will be an interactive virtual event. To get you involved, I'm going to send you a poll and kind of get an understanding of where you are at today and your career search. Meanwhile, I also wanted to tell you that we are going to answer questions along the way, as well as potentially at the end if we have time. And the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen on your toolbar, as well as the chat, will be enabled for you to ask questions, throw in comments, and we will try to answer questions both virtually as well as online as we go. I also wanted to share this disclaimer because this is an interactive event. And so a lot of the stories that you will hear are coming from the veterans and the GE executives and employees who are sharing them. And so it is truly from the heart. And we also want you to feel free to ask questions that are authentic to you. Now, you're going to get to meet these people soon, but it's a huge thank you to the entire team from GE Aerospace that is moderated by Nicole Foster. She's a Lieutenant Colonel Air Force retired. We have Michael Brown, who's Marine Corps veteran. We have Hannah Buck, who is Navy veteran, Nora Burghardt, who is a Navy veteran, Amanda Dolsen, Army veteran, Jennifer Murphy, who is the Senior Global Talent Acquisition Leader at GE Aerospace, Jason Pratt, who's Marine Corps veteran, and Nyapaula Washington, who is Air Force veteran. So as you can see, we have a highly qualified team, and I encourage you to ask a range of questions.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Foster. I'm your moderator for today. We're going to talk about GE Aerospace. Apologies for the video, but you'll get plenty of content from the team here. So if it gets to work later, it's just icing on the cake. So GE Aerospace. We invent the future of flight, lift people up, and bring them home safely. It is part of our heartfelt mission every single day. Did you know that we power so much of the flying public every single day? Every 2 seconds, an aircraft powered with GE technology takes flight. 3/4 of three out of every 4 flights that take off is a GE powered technology flight. And over 900,000 people right now are flying on GE powered technology. To me, that is super powerful. And we wanted to share our journey with you and who we are and what kind of products we have to bring to the market. A big focus for us is culture. We are very purpose driven. Again, we invent the future of flight, lift people up, and bring them home safely. But the biggest part of that is having humility, transparency, and focus every single day. We do especially respect and celebrate diversity, and our environment allows all voices to be lifted up. And not only that, I've seen it up front firsthand that our company truly cares about career growth and learning opportunities. Let's get a little bit deeper into the Veterans Network because, well, you're all veterans or at least connected to military service in some way. I wanted to share with you how deep seated our culture is at the Veterans Network. The Veterans Network is made up of employees, just like me and the folks on the call, that actually are committed and volunteer their time to support other military veterans. We support families and military veterans to get hired into the company, grow their career, and support their local communities. And not only that, we provide service to our deployed members because we do have many of our current GE employees who are guardsmen and reservists. And quite honestly, I was a reservist for the last 8 years while working at GE. We host sponsored events all over the country. We raise tens of thousands of dollars every single year to support veterans. And we are truly an international and global veterans network. We have a huge presence in the United Kingdom and here in the US, and we provide veterans community services like I mentioned before. Today, we're going to focus a lot of our discussion on the hire pillar, but we have 3 pillars: hire, grow, and support. Hire is where we help to recruit our military talent through different pipelines. We'll go into that a little more in depth later, but give you a very high level overview. We have the Military Officer Leadership Program, DoD Skill Bridge that we're very excited to continue to support. And then we have direct hire positions throughout the enterprise. Not only that, but once a veteran gets hired into the company, we're able to grow our veterans through networking and support, and even helping them to balance both their military guard or reserve duty along with their GE career. And then finally, most importantly to all of us, is to support our communities and our veterans who are either still serving or that are in deployed location. And we walk the walk, okay? I wanted to share that we're very proud of some of the accolades we've received in the last year. The Department of Labor Gold Medallion is very near and dear to our hearts, but also Newsweek and US Veterans Magazine have recognized some of the work that we continue to do for veterans. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce the panel. Again, I'm Nicole Foster. I'm an Air Force veteran. I served for 12 and a half years active duty as a KC-10 pilot, which is why you see the medal behind me. Those engines are actually CF6 engines, are GE powered, which is what motivated me to join the company. I'm an alumni of the Military Officer Leadership Program. Again, I'm a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. I've retired from the reserves just in June, and I'm currently the Mobility Sales Director for our Defense and Systems business. Now, I'd love it if the panel, starting with Nia and going all the way to Jason, would introduce themselves with their service branch, how long they served, and then how they joined the company. So Nia, you're up first, lady.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nyapaula Washington. I go by Nia. I'm a United States Air Force veteran. I served for 14 years, 10 months, and 11 days, but who's counting? And I joined the company via the DoD Skill Bridge program.
Thanks, Nia. Amanda?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Amanda Dolsen. I'm an Army vet. I served 8 years active duty, a little bit of reserve time in there as well, but I'm fully out. I'm currently on the MOLT program. in my second rotation in the supply chain division of the business.
Thanks, Amanda. Hannah?
Hi, everybody. My name is Hannah Buck. I am a Navy veteran, was a MH-60 Romeo pilot for about 10 years. I joined the company via direct hire and then joined MOLP, and I'm now an MOLP alum. And that's it.
Thanks, Hannah. Nora?
Good afternoon. My name is Nora Burghardt. I'm a 29-year Navy veteran. I was an aviation maintenance officer, Navy captain. I joined GE as a direct hire about 3 years ago, actually, and I'm currently the director for Navy and Marine Corps programs out of our Washington ops office.
Thanks, Nora. Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Murphy. I'm one of the talent acquisition leaders in GE Aerospace. I come from a big veteran family, along with my team supports the Military Officer Leadership Program and the DoD SkillBridge program.
Thanks, Jennifer. Mike?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Brown, 11-year Marine Corps veteran. Much like Nikki and Hannah, my military career was powered by GE engines, T700 power. So was a big fan of the business before I even got here. Joined back in 2018 through the Military Officer Leadership Program. Currently work in our commercial operations business, where I'm a delivery leader for one of our regional engines. I also am the director of the Military Officer Leadership Program.
All right. And Jason? Thank you, Mike.
Hopefully everybody heard me okay. There we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Pratt. I was a Marine Hornet pilot for 20 years, and I was a direct hire into GE when I retired about 10 years ago. So again, another user of the propulsion product that GE makes. And I'm currently an engineering executive in our Edison Works division, which is our advanced military engines. And I'm also the division champion for the Military Officer Leadership Program inside the engineering world.
Excellent. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I really appreciate you joining today. We'd like to start off with discussing our values here at GE. I think that's the biggest thing that attracted me to the company. I'd love for the panel, especially starting with some of the hiring managers. Notice how we've got our block of veteran hires that have come into the company in the last 0 to 5 years. And then we have our hiring managers also joining this discussion so that we can have a back and forth between what it's like to be a veteran and what it's like to hire a veteran at GE. Now, Jason, I'd like to start with you. Can you share with us, how GE's leadership behaviors align with our values as military veterans and what you're looking for in some of your talent? Can you run through those key leadership behaviors for us?
Sure, happy to. So the GE leadership behaviors are act with humility, lead with transparency, and deliver with focus. And in essence, they encompass the leadership traits, if you're familiar with those, different aspects of those. So act with humility kind of encompasses unselfishness, tact, dependability, whereas lead with transparency would cover integrity, knowledge, and courage, and deliver with focus would be initiative, decisiveness, and bearing. So all the traits that you've developed in the military are directly applicable here at GE. Again, as an aviation industry focused company, integrity, doing the right thing, saying something when we see something wrong are very important. As Nikki alluded to in the beginning, at this moment, 900,000 people depend on our products to operate safely. So the workforce at GE Aerospace has to have the values to make sure that nothing gets through the process, gets built, installed, that doesn't meet all of our quality requirements. So when we look at new employees, that from a personality standpoint is what we're looking for. If you have a technical alignment or a professional alignment from a skill set that aligns with the role, that's great. But we can teach that. We're really more looking for are those traits of an individual that we can grow once we get you into the company.
Hey, thanks, Jason. And I wanted to give both Jennifer and Mike a chance to add anything on and the way they see our leadership behaviors reflected in veterans when you're interviewing or when you're bringing on board a new employee. Did you want to add anything, Jennifer or Mike?
I'll jump in real quick. I think when it comes to me, like as a talent acquisition leader, we really know that our veterans show up to work. We know how they show up to work. And I think it's really important that you guys understand what you bring to the table, right? You've shown dedication, leadership, support, services that are very valuable to us as an organization. And so it's really important when you reflect back on Jason's words and some of our pillars is, lead with transparency, act with humility. Those are big, big pillars for us in GE Aerospace. And what I would say to you is just when you're thinking through your background in the military and the time that you served is really put it into buckets, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and think about how you grew as a service member and think about what you learned and really take the time to put pen to paper so that when you are interviewing, you're able to accurately reflect back on that and explain it very well. So I guess from a talent acquisition perspective, that's kind of my point of view. Mike?
Yeah, I'll add, and I'll kind of add it from both perspectives. As someone coming in from the military, making the transition from military to commercial, but also now as someone in the hiring channel, if you will, directing the MOLT program. And to tie off on what Jennifer said, I think one issue that we often face, she hit on the head, is that we often undersell ourselves. I think the military has taught us to be humble, and we often use words like we, the team I was on did this. And I would say when you're applying for a position anywhere outside of the military, make sure you are highlighting what you have contributed. I know it's kind of counterintuitive for many of us to change that lingo. But on top of that, I think, and I now kind of connected to what Jason said, one thing that really has impressed me with GE Aerospace is how they recognize the soft skills that we do provide. Obviously, there's no real need for helicopter pilots or tank drivers or logisticians officers, or a lot of the hard skills that you learn in the military may not directly apply right off the bat, or that readily transparent or visible, right? But it's the soft skills that GE is very good at recognizing what we provide, and they really value that. So the leadership traits and values that Jason went over are recognized that is one of our strengths, right? So we come in and we have a lot to learn. As Jason said, we can teach you the technical aspects and the way that the business operates, but we expect veterans to come in with those soft skills and really to utilize those to make an impact immediately when they come into the company.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I think this is a great segue into how do we find good talent. So I'd love to dig into, how someone who's looking at a company like GE, finds the right open role for them. I'd love to just tease out a little bit what kind of conversations you have with a new veteran as a veteran who's transitioning, who's trying to figure out the right space for them at GE Aerospace. Jennifer, I'd love you to lead on how that dialogue takes place with a new recruit.
So one of the things that I really like to do is put it back in the new recruits bucket. You know what you did in the military. You know what's going to make you happy. You know what you think you want to do. And so we ask you to do some research. Take the time, go to our career page, take a look at what's open. Look at the sites that we have that we're hiring for. Is it a remote role that would be best for you? As you're transitioning or your spouse is transitioning, are you wanting to get back to a certain state? I know, like my brother, when he transitioned, he was not going to stay where he was at, right? He wanted to get back to a different state. So all of those things. I'm not a mind reader. Talent acquisition is not a mind reader. So what we ask of you is to really dig deep and do your homework and treat it like it's a full-time job and start really looking at the different services that GE Aerospace provides. There's military engines, there's commercial, there's the DT. There's a lot of different buckets and a lot of different business roles that we have open. At any given time, we'll have 7,000 job openings in the US alone. And so it's really hard for my team to quickly identify what you're looking for based on what you did in the military. So we ask you to go back, really understand, where do you want to be located? What do you think that you want to do? What do you think correlates with what you did in the military that would make you happy? Or have you been getting a certification? Or what was your degree in? Those are the things where do your homework. And then I always ask anybody that's applying to MOLP or SkillBridge or even any direct hire roles, take a look at our current openings and come back to me with some recs that look like it's type of work that you would be interested in, right? Because it's difficult for me to say like, okay, you were a helicopter pilot. Okay, what does that transfer to? Like, I need you guys to come along on the journey with me, right? And so there's a lot of different articles out there about the different contracts that we won, the different type of work that we do. And so I really put it back, the onus back on the candidate to do a little bit of research. And then at that point, once they come to me and say, okay, I've looked at everything, I like these type of roles, we'll look into it and we'll dig into it. And then I want to talk about, what did you like about the role? How does that translate to what you've done? Because here's the thing, 9 times out of 10, your resume is not going to reflect that. And that is A-okay, right? If you're like most veterans I've met or military spouses, you have not written a resume in a very long time. It's not a muscle that you have readily used, right? But this is where I push back again and say, okay, I want you to come back, really utilize the tools. There's a lot of free resources out there for veterans and their spouses to help them write a good resume, right? To help them learn how to interview. So I push the tools that are out there that are a free resource for you to utilize, and ask that you come to me with a resume that reflects the type of role that you're looking for.
Jennifer, I appreciate that a lot. Sorry to interrupt, but you know, the work that we've done together, you and me, for the last few years on veteran hiring, a lot of it has to do with giving that feedback and making sure a veteran does access those resources. You know, I'm a counselor for Hire Heroes USA, which is a nonprofit. I know that OWL supports resume support. I know, Susan, that when we had the OWL session back in April, that folks could get resume coaching from OWL. So there are an abundance of resources out there. So Jennifer, I just wanted to jump in and say, hey, look,
and I can't,
those that we can certainly help steer you in the right direction towards, because there are tried and true methods that work for people who have gotten hired at the company. Go ahead, Jennifer.
This is like, I love this because the best thing that you can do for yourself is use the tools that are out there. This is, it's not comfortable to interview. Nobody should be comfortable interviewing because it's not something that you should be doing like every day, all day long, right? So understanding that aspect of your personality, I can't push enough for you to use the free resources that are out there. I'm also a big fan of, you know, making an outline over your time in the military. Mike talked about it, Jason talked about it. One of the things is every time I interview a veteran, they say we. I want to hear about, I understand that's the military mindset, right? I absolutely understand that. Dad, grandpa's brother, everybody served. Surrounded by veterans. I understand. But what I'm asking you to do is kind of get uncomfortable and really think and break down what you did in your time in the military, and make sure that you're really doing a good job of storytelling. And I recognize storytelling can be uncomfortable for a lot of people, right? And so if you want, it sounds silly, but practice in the mirror, get comfortable doing that. And I see a question in the chat is, are there any create your own roles, i.e. roles that require interdisciplinary focus? So no, we don't create your own roles. It's more so we hire for what the business needs. And there's a saying in HR and talent acquisition, which is we hire for the position, not for the candidate. And that's because the work that needs to be done in the organization is what we post. Now, if you are a transitioning service member, DoD Skill Bridge is a really great internship. It's a job training internship. Nia knows it's a really good pathway into the company. It's an internship back and forth. They're candidates interviewing us while we're interviewing them for a long time. You get to do some project work, really get to see inside what GE Aerospace does. It's a large matrix organization. And it's just a really great avenue for you to understand if this is going to be a company for you or not.
Hey, Jennifer, do you want to jump to that part of the presentation where we talk through the various pipelines? Because I think that might help some of this dialogue.
Yes.
If we can go back to other Q&A with the panel, because this is supposed to be fluid. So I love the segue there. So I've switched to the next screen. Let's talk a little bit about that pipeline, shall we? And I'll let you talk about direct hire positions, just like you mentioned, in SkillBridge. And then Mike, I'd love it if you covered the military officer leadership program. So Jennifer, you want to continue where you started?
Yeah, I'll start with DoD SkillBridge. So we are 2 years into our program partnership, and it's been a very successful pipeline of talent for us. We, on average, hire about 30 to 40 interns a year, or bring into the organization 30 to 40 interns a year. Our conversion rate to full-time employees is sitting at the 80% mark. What that means is that at the end of their internship, 80% of those interns we convert into full-time employees. That just goes to show how much GE really appreciates the value of a veteran and how they show up to work. And so again, if you haven't heard about it, it's a DoD statute up to 180 days before you're separating. I believe that the Navy does require you to work into your terminal leave time. I believe they're the only branch that does. We have SkillBridge internship roles posted. We recognize that every base, every commanding officer is different. So we work with you to understand what your requirements are and then see how we can fit you into the organization. With regards to the direct hire route. So several people on this call are former military veterans that applied to a role and were hired into a role direct hire. So didn't go through a leadership program, didn't go through DoD SkillBridge, but directly applied into a role. With that, this is where I really push you to craft your resume for the position that you're applying to ensure that you're exposing the type of work that you did that correlates to what GE is doing, right? And think through, the military does a lot of acronyms, so does GE Aerospace, but this is where I push back on you as a veteran or military spouse. Make sure you're reading through your resume and taking out any of the acronyms and you're actually putting the words in, right? Because you want whoever is reading your resume to understand what type of roles and responsibilities that you had. And so with direct hire, we're global, right? We have 52,000 employees right now in GE Aerospace alone. So like I said, at any given time, there's 7,000 openings. I just encourage you to go in there and to look through the businesses, look through, it'll say like early careers. And what that might mean to you is you think that's like for like a new grad or a junior person. But for you, what that could mean is early career is you've not done a lot of this work, right? So you only have 1 or 2 years of experience in this realm. So I would encourage you to also look at the early career roles to understand that what that means is that those are more junior level positions in terms of the scope of work and the years of work, right? It doesn't mean that it's a junior person. It means that that person has only done that type of work for a couple of years. So just be open, just look through everything that we have. There's so much out there. You'll see some of our sites are 40% veteran population. So again, we really value hiring our veterans, and we know what they bring to the table. And it's all jobs, all experience levels. It really is based on what you and what you're looking for. And I just really encourage you to make sure that you understand your resume is the very first thing that a recruiter sees about you. And so it's so important that you use the resources out there to craft a good resume. And then highly encourage, last thing is just the interviewing. Please, please, please use the resources that are out there, because that's not a super normal muscle for people to interview all the time. And so we want to make sure that you present your best foot forward, right? And so think through, if you're meeting somebody for the first time and they're fumbling with their words and they're struggling to explain what they did, that doesn't really set a good example, but you know that they're super smart, right? So I just highly encourage you to practice on your interviewing skills as well. And then sorry, was that Jason?
Yeah, real quick, I'll throw up for the direct hire too. Be open to roles that may not necessarily align 100% to what you're looking for. A lot of times you don't know what you want to do, and
Jason, that's it. Yep.
There's a great ability to get into a company on maybe a less than perfect role, and then once you're in the company, then you can grow into the other roles. So a lot of it, I know when we got hired into GE, I wanted to work for GE. I was offered a role I didn't apply for, and it's probably one I wouldn't have applied for, but I talked to the hiring manager and I said, hey, that's a decent fit, and that gets me in the door. And from there, once you're in the door, then you can excel.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you guys. Let's move over to Molt, because we have some more things we want to cover in our agenda. Mike, can you share with us what the Military Officer Leadership Program is? And I just wanted to highlight here, I did put up a map of kind of where our presence are throughout the U.S. Made this very U.S. based, but just wanted the audience to kind of focus in on some of those spots, since when somebody starts to ask you where you're thinking about going, this is a good high level look at where GE is across the country. Mike, you want to share with us a little bit about MOLP, and then we'll move over to talk to our new hires.
Yep, certainly. So you can think of these hiring pipelines as three distinct funnels, right? And they both are trying to solve the same problem. And the problem I would frame it as is the way I felt, and the way many of the folks in the panel behind us will talk about here in a minute, is when you're ready to make that switch from veteran to commercial, or from military to commercial world, you're at the precipice, and everything on the other side of the cliff is completely foreign to you. And these funnels are also supposed to be kind of a bridge to help you cross that. And that's exactly where MOLP came into place. This program began back in the early 2000s and has grown to where it is today. And the intent here is that it is a leadership program. So we're actually looking to select top performing individuals, veterans coming out of the military, and then place them through 3 8-month rotational assignments across various divisions in the business, ultimately to help you find and land that off-program role. So all the challenges you just heard Jen and Jason talking about, this program is designed to help you through those, and is focused on bringing that high-performing talent in and placing it in the right places in the business so that you do land in that right place at the right time. You'll notice we have several divisions. As Jason said earlier, he's a division champion, or essentially, if you can think of these divisions as little mini sub-leadership programs within those functions of the business. You can see we're focused in commercial engines and services, defense and systems. And again, if you think of those two businesses as essentially our customer-facing business units for commercial aerospace and military aerospace respectively. Then as you work your way down the different divisions, the big things that GE does, I mean, we make things, we design and build things, right? And so engineering and supply chain are the next two divisions as well. Supply chain being the function that ultimately produces the engines and other systems that we sell to our customers, and supporting those products in the field. And then engineering obviously is more closer to the engine technology itself, designing and supporting the product in the field. And then digital technology is one of our newer divisions. Obviously in today's digital world, everything we do, even this call, is on unique digital systems, and that function is there to enable the business to operate in today's digital environment. Everything from how we do business internally to also supporting our customers in the field. So a very new and growing division that we're finding a lot of success in. So overall, the point of the program is ideally we want you to align to one of these divisions and then do 3 8-month rotations within those divisions to help identify where you are best suited, and then also to enable you to win or to be selected for a job opening when you come off program at the end of those 2 years. Thanks for highlighting the map there, Nikki. You're right. We do require you to be on site for these. It's obviously very beneficial to be in person for these types of rotations. And so we are locally centered in the Cincinnati area in Ohio, and also in Lynn or the Boston area in Massachusetts, those 2 bigger green dots there.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Now that we've described the pipeline, let's talk to our veterans who've gotten hired recently and what their journey has been like. So I'd love for us to talk a little bit about, when some of you either separated or retired, what went through your mind on why you decided to separate or retire, and why did you find that GE Aerospace was a good fit for you? I know each one of you has come through our various pipelines. Nia, can we start with you and just talk a little bit about it? And then we'll just go left to right. We'll have Nia, Amanda, Hannah, and Nora share a little bit about, their journeys, because I think it's really important for the audience to hear, because it helps you reflect what you do or don't want from your transition in the service, is to hear how your fellow brothers and sisters dealt with that transition. Nia, you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So again, I'm a Air Force veteran. I had an amazing career, and if I had to do it all over again, I honestly wouldn't change anything. I started off in civil engineering as a structural journeyman, and then the second half of my career was in aviation as an electronic warfare officer and combat systems officer on the AC-130U model and J model, respectively. So those were great roles, great positions that I was in, but they were also both physically and mentally taxing. So making the decision to voluntarily step away from that wasn't a very easy decision to come to. I got to a point where I was almost at 15 years, and that meant, all right, I got 5 more years till, retirement. But I had to consider, was beating up my body and my mental health would I be able to keep that up for 5 more years? And then also something to consider was, my family was growing, newly engaged, kids. So not only would the decision to stay in or not affect me, but, it would affect them as well with a rapid deployment cycle. And the mission that I supported was, pretty dangerous. So, those are things that I had to consider as well. And they always tell us that as service members, you're in that 1% that decided to volunteer and serve. So
That's right.
I told myself, well, I'm of the 1%, but the other 99% of the population, has figured out how to navigate the civilian world. So I think I can figure it out too.
Sure. And you came through DoD Skill Bridge, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you mind sharing with the audience how you kind of segued from DoD Skill Bridge into your current role?
Sure. So at the start of my DoD SkillBridge internship, and at numerous points throughout, I would have, routine check-ins with my people leader and with my team leader asking me, okay, what do you expect? What are your expectations? Okay, so far, what do you like? What do you dislike? Can you see yourself working for GE in the future? And what kind of roles would you like to serve in? So those regular check-ins allowed me to network.
Great.
I had a lot of, introductory one-on-ones with people in the different sectors between supply chain, digital technology, the defense. So I was able to kind of pick the brains of people, like I said, in those different sectors. So a lot of networking is what led to eventually getting hired on at the end of my internship.
Excellent. Yeah, there's actually, you brought up something that's really important and personal. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you for your vulnerability and sharing where you were in your journey, because as a fellow aviator, and also I'm married to another aviator, and it just got really hard for us to balance both of our flying careers, which is one of the reasons I decided to get out of active duty Air Force and stop flying. My husband flies for United. And one thing I really wanted to kind of dig a little deeper on was what that journey is like as you grow your family. I had a kindergartner when I left active duty, and I remember coming into the company and they're doing a working moms night out where we got to have a little wine together, and I thought that was just the coolest thing, because I came from a flying unit where I was the only mom in the whole unit. And so I didn't feel as alone when I came to GE, and that was actually really refreshing. But I wanted to actually ask Jennifer to jump in a little bit and talk about, how GE supports working families, not just moms, but also dads, and a lot of folks that are folks that may have been so used to like mission first, and then how GE supports our families as people are growing them at the company. And we'll get back to the rest of the panel, but I really do think it's important for us to talk a little bit about that, because
could you quickly show the benefits?
That struggle.
Could you quickly move to the benefits slide? I think that would be beneficial as well.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that one. Let me just see if I can find it.
I think that we did.
I don't know if I have that one, Jennifer.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought we had a benefit slide, but that's okay. So I'm going to make this quick because I know that we are short on time.
Okay.
So we do have a lot of different avenues. We have paternity leave, maternity leave. We offer different insurance. We do the HSAs, the FSAs, fidelity coaching for your retirement. There's just so many things. We have a healthcare ahead where you can talk to coaches 24/7. And in that healthcare ahead, we offer different free memberships to Groker or some different apps that you can download for your mental well-being. Because one of the things that we really value is the whole person well-being, right? And so as a working parent, I have loved working in GE. I've always felt value. My leader has always supported me when I've needed to leave early or come in early or take time off or and work from home due to a sick child, what have you. I know there's several people on the call as well that are working parents, both, mother and father. So it we support both. We have some different support groups for working parents. We have support groups for trans parents. We have multiple ERGs across the organization that support you, not just if you're a veteran, but if you're a woman in DT or a woman in GE Aerospace or African American Forum, Hispanic Forum. We have a ton of different support for the employee. Let me see, what else am I leaving off with all the benefits? Help me out here. Anybody else?
Just a little bit about like the maternity, paternity benefits. That would be helpful. Because I know there's also benefits for parents that are adopting as well.
So we do tuition and adoption assistance, yes. And then we do offer up to 10 weeks paid parental leave. There's a 401k, Roth after tax, company match on contributions. There's life insurance plans, and for you and your eligible dependents, there's GE disability benefits. Also, one of the big things is its first day of work coverage, which is what I love. So day one upon employment of GE Aerospace, you are covered. I talked about the savings accounts. There's medical, dental, vision, and pharmacy benefits available. There's a dedicated team of care coaches. Like I talked about the healthcare hub. They have health coaches available 24/7.
And one thing to add to Jennifer, we won't get too much in the weeds on this, but if a member deploys or goes on active duty orders, there are services to help close the gap. If there's a gap in salary between your military duty and your GE pay. There are lots of details there I won't get into, but it's actually pretty great to just hear how supportive the company is when you do activate and making sure you're taken care of when you get back, which is why we talk so much about the Veterans Network. That's super helpful, Jennifer. I do want to get back to our other veterans who've been patiently waiting. Amanda, are you ready to share a little bit about your journey of leaving active duty and coming over to GE recently? I think you're our newest member of the panel.
Of course, yeah. So 8 years in the Army on active duty, kind of hit a point as an officer where you're a senior captain and it's like you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to stick it out and keep going, or if you want to pursue a civilian career. I made the choice that I wanted to go back to grad school. I wanted to head back to the Midwest, where I'm originally from, and test my skills. I do supply chain management now. I have my master's in supply chain. I did logistics in the Army. Kind of wanted to try something different, but then it also, GE is great because it offers me the opportunity to still have that foot in the door to work for the military if I wanted to with defense and systems. So it really just became a good fit for me to challenge myself in a way that I hadn't been before with the types of units that I was in. I wasn't a pilot or anything like that. I wasn't touching aviation equipment like some of our other panel members, but still supporting nonetheless. So
Amanda, are you still there? Did you guys lose her too? Amanda, we lost you. While we're waiting for Amanda to rejoin, if you guys can send her a chat and let her know that we lost her. We're going to move on to Hannah. Hannah, can you share a little bit about your journey switching from the Navy to GE? And we'll see if we can get Amanda back. I apologize for, must be a technical glitch.
Sure. So I was Navy pilot. So I did that for my commitment, got to the point where my commitment was up. But at that point, I had already made a decision. So I quickly realized that I was not one that was going to be chasing the command opportunities. That wasn't something that appealed to me in any way, shape, or form, just to be entirely honest. So with the way the kind of Navy career progression goes, that was instantly not limiting, but I realized I wasn't going to be willing to play the continual game of taking the job that you need to have the next job that you need to have the next job that you need. So I loved the flying. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I got to do, and I really enjoyed it. And I realized the longer I stayed in, the more my job was going to be less about the flying, more about the managing of everything else, which is just not what I was interested in doing. And also, as I was an instructor pilot, I got the opportunity to go to the Navy's School of Aviation Safety. So I got trained as a safety officer there, came back to the squadron and was the aviation safety officer for about 18 months. And I loved everything about that job. I loved interacting with everybody, running the human factors piece of it, and getting to interact with the students and instructors on a different level. I oddly enjoyed writing hazard reports, you know, being able to conduct a mishap investigation. That kind of stuff is the stuff that I really like to do. So I quickly kind of realized, A, I knew I was getting out. B, I kind of have an idea of what I want to do outside, because that initial jump of like, what am I going to do when I grow up and get out of the military, and have to figure it out. And I get to finally pick where I live, what I do, who I work for, all of that kind of stuff. So thankfully I found something that I knew I wanted to do, a field of work. And then it was just figuring out who to do that with, what the job was going to look like, that kind of stuff. So for me, I had a path. I just had to figure out who to work for. And I knew I wanted to work in the aerospace field. That's what I loved. My undergrad was in aerospace engineering. So I really enjoyed that piece of it. And I enjoyed the flying part of what I was doing with the Navy. So that kind of limited, you know, what companies I wanted to work for. So I knew it had to be aerospace related. And then it really came down to, where do I want to live? Kind of back to Jennifer's point, you know, I knew I kind of had more of, where do I not want to be, as opposed to where do I want to be. It's pretty open. I was like, worst case scenario, I treated it like a deployment. I hate it after 2 years and I move on. So that's kind of where I narrowed it down, and then found the job offering at GE Aerospace that was aligned with what I wanted to do, which was the aviation safety type stuff. It's a development role. So I currently work with, how do we design the safety into the engine before it exists, as opposed to how do we kind of triage issues as they pop up once it's out in the field. So I enjoy that aspect of it. I really feel like I'm contributing to the military mission kind of before it even gets to me 10 years ago, right? So flying the T-700, somebody was doing the job that I'm currently doing to make sure that engine is as safe as possible before it gets there. And that's what I get the opportunity to do. So that's why I kind of settled on GE Aerospace. I settled on living in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've loved it. So that's kind of my journey from start to finish.
I love it, Hannah. Thanks for sharing your story. And as a fellow flight safety nerd, I appreciate the work you do every day to keep our products safe. So thanks for sharing. Nora, I'd love it for you to share so much of your journey, because I know you had a robust career in the U.S. Navy active duty as a captain, ma'am, and I'd love to hear about how you've transitioned your previous work into what you're doing now. With the
Absolutely. So yes, I did have a full career. I went all the way. There were times where I questioned that along the way, but promotions always kind of dangle in front of you, and new jobs to keep you moving. And so I stayed in. So a full 29 years. The first 2/3 of it were mostly operational and on major staffs, on several aircraft carriers as an aviation maintenance officer, doing an O5 tour aboard a carrier, O5 command tour. And then later, the last third of my career, acquisition management. So I spent a lot of time in the Pax River area on different programs, helping design, manage with contractors. So that's my first exposure to GE as an active duty commander, and then later captain. I was on many programs as a program manager, working directly with GE, providing either our engines or other systems and components. So I was very well aware of what the company was like. And then I got to the point where I finished my 06 command tour, and it was time to retire. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, what am I going to be? I could be logistics, because I was a logistician. I could be a program manager. I could be an engineer. I had a degree in engineering. What do I want to do? So I dabbled in several little things, trying to figure that out, changed jobs a few times. But I realized, after having been a program manager and having my hands into everything, that I like to have my hands into everything. And so I pursued a civil service career. And so at NavAir, I was a GS-15 actually. Had a career lined up in front of me. And GE actually asked me if I was interested in a role in their organization. And I thought about it. It's like, oh, I don't know. I kind of have a path. Maybe I'll help you find somebody. And when they started talking about what kind of skills and characteristics they were looking for, it was me. And I was like, I am like the best fit for this. So maybe I should think about it. And I did.
That's great.
The direct hire process, I had to actually do a lot of interviewing directly with a lot of the executive leadership, because they were evaluating whether I had the right character to be able to take the role. and how they would help me. And I absolutely love it. I don't regret my decision to join GE, the things that really attracted me, because it had to be enough to pull me away from a civil service career.
Right.
That attracted me were a big piece of that was the culture at GE. So there's lots of other big companies out there that I could have been part of, but the culture in GE really respects individuals, their recommendations, their voice. I really enjoyed that. And I've seen some people come and go in GE trying to find bigger roles, and they end up coming back to GE because nobody would listen to them in their new role. And so that was really important to me because as a second career, I really wanted to make a difference and I wanted to be heard, and the resources. The other thing that was really exciting to me is the way that General Electric embraces innovation. Very keyed on bringing new technologies and advancing technologies. So being involved in that is really exciting, and being able to dabble into that as well. And so as my role as a director of Navy Marine programs, I have the opportunity to touch all of our Navy and Marine Corps programs that we have, which are quite a bit, almost on every platform, including ships. We actually supply engines on ships as well.
Right.
Opportunity to help the different program managers in GE and executives solve problems, be able to communicate so that they understand the systems. And it's just really rewarding to be part of that and to travel on this journey. That culture was a big part of it because it gives me a voice. It makes me feel like I'm making a difference. And the work-life balance that you've heard across the board is really important too. I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. And it was kind of funny because I never took vacations when I was active duty unless I was PCSing most of the time.
Oh.
And it was always part of a PCS. And then everybody around me is like, they take a couple of vacations a year with their families. I'm like, you know what? I got to start planning and doing that too. And so the work-life balance has been great. And there's a lot of value in people in this company as well. And that's definitely made a big difference for me.
Oh my gosh. I love hearing everybody's stories. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't think, just great tip for everybody to get together and share what an impact their previous life as veterans had on what they're doing now and how they're thriving in their careers. Again, that goes back to how we grow our veterans and help promote them and help them, continue to thrive in their new careers at GE. And, Susan, we do have maybe another minute for like another set of questions. I do want to leave a little bit of time for wrap up, but are there any questions that the audience has? Because I think we did a fine job of kind of sharing, who we are as a company and then what our different businesses have to offer. Are there any questions out there from the audience? I didn't see any in the chat, but I want to give the audience a chance to ask them. And I can also move to our wrap up slide. And if folks have questions, we can always jump back. Let me jump to our kind of wrap up slide. So, what do you guys do now as our audience? I think you should take action and try to connect with us. First you can search for those job opportunities that Jennifer mentioned, that Mike mentioned at the beginning, and, all the different pipelines we have to bring in talent. You can also join our talent community and then, connect with us on LinkedIn. So I put our veteran recruiter Teague in the QR code. He is our direct hire leader, but he is also a pipeline into the rest of us. And then we are also hosting a virtual chat that you can get connected with us. Let's see here. I see some chats coming up. Dominic's asking if Leidos is a partner company. Jennifer, since you work with the digital team to bring in talent, do you know anything about partnership with Leidos? I live in the DC area and I see their signs everywhere, but I don't know what our connection is with that company. I don't see a connection.
I think they're a partner company with Academy Women, not with us.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Maybe Susan can take that offline with you, Dominic. But as far as GE is concerned, these are the ways that I think that our audience can take action. Remember, we invent the future of flight, lift people up and bring them home safely. You heard a lot about our Veterans Network, how we've gotten some accolades from private industry and from nonprofits that recognize some of the work that we've been doing across the enterprises to help veterans get in. And I wanted to say a special thanks to both Jackie and Susan for the work you do for veterans. It's just unmatched, and our partnership with you I joined GE back in 2016, and I've been a part of Owls since then, and the Academy Women. And it's just mind blowing to see the work that you do and how much your base of audience has just grown. I think we've outgrown some of our facilities when I first started joining, and just to see you host these webinars and be part of the community and outreach, I just think is fabulous. So wanted to give you a chance, Susan, to wrap things up and just give you a heartfelt thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share a couple slides, and that will give you all an idea of ways that you can join in on other opportunities that we have moving forward with our programming. The interesting thing is that we offer a variety of different ways to engage with not only the military community, but also the like the veteran community and those companies that are interested in working with military and veterans such as GE. Let me just share again how pleased and grateful we are to all of you who came today and shared your story and shared your path, because I know we have several in the audience that can definitely relate to that. And I think it just makes it so much easier to imagine yourself as somebody who would fit in GE Aerospace. All right. So as was mentioned at the beginning, our partnership with Leidos lies in the Virtual Engagement Center. You can join 24/7 this network of military employers such as GE Aerospace. In fact, when you join this community, you can chat with a member of the GE Aerospace team, and they will get back to you with any questions you have. You can schedule a small session. They can share other resources as well as opportunities that might be open today. And Nikki, did you have a question?
Well, actually, I wanted to address Andy's question. I know that we do have like another minute, so I'd want to answer it. He talked about, or she talked about, senior enlisted pipeline. That's why we shared the direct hire and the DoD skill bridge pipelines, because that is open to everybody. They're both open to everybody, which is why it's so critical that you look into those opportunities, because that's how we've had a lot of success, especially recently with retention and bringing senior enlisted leaders into the company is through DoD skill bridge. Jennifer, anything to add there?
Yeah, I would just say, please look at our career page, set up job alerts if there's not something that you see right at this moment that you're interested in. Because again, at any given time, we have about 7,000 postings. We hire all types of roles, all types of levels. So it's not just we're making engines or black boxes. We also have the DT side. We have supply chain. We have operations. We have sales. This is a huge matrix organization. And so any and all types of roles. Somebody had hinted upon doing finance. Yes, we have finance. We also have finance auditors, right? With a specialized in cybersecurity. So I cannot encourage you enough, but go onto our career site and take a look at what we have available. And then to Susan and to Nikki's point, there will be 2 people that will be engaged in the chat for the next month. That is Teague and Chris. And they're both, one was a veteran and one has supported military veteran hiring closely. So they will help you with any and all questions that you have. And then feel free to connect with any of us on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for that offer. It's again, you're all so generous with your time and your stories and resources. It's really a gift. Just very quickly, we have another webinar coming up on the 5th of September that will actually be focused on mastering the job hunt 101. And you're going to hear some of the same themes that were shared today, but give you a couple more practical skills and takeaways around kind of next steps and putting the pencil to the paper type thing. The other events that we have coming up, for our webinar series, we have something almost every month, but you can see we have a very robust schedule. And I do recommend an in-person event that we have on the 6th of December. It's our Distinguished Speaker Series. It's also offered virtually. as well as our career coaching workshop on the 2nd of April. And that is an event where you can literally sit down and work through kind of resume writing, interview skills. And then the Officer Women Leadership Symposium, where we have folks from all over the world come speaking to leadership, opportunities to network, opportunities to understand kind of what's new and hot in the military, the veteran space, as well as the just general leadership environment. So we hope to see you there. And again, our Virtual Engagement Center is an incredible resource, open 24/7, followed by our professional profile directory. We can help share your information with companies like GE Aerospace and help you kind of hone what skill sets we think that they're going to need to know about you. LinkedIn is always an incredible resource and part of your networking to-do list, as well as these other resources and military-friendly companies that you'll see on our Virtual Engagement Center. All right, so I appreciate everybody joining today, and hopefully you all took something away that was interesting and new, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. I will share more links in our following emails so that you can watch the video about GE, as well as understand kind of what opportunities are out there for you all. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you all.
Okay, bye-bye.